Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Getting started at 8 p.m. on the dot. I ain't playing around tonight. What's up? What's up? It's your boy, Vinny Dangerous, back again with another installment of 1430. Um, Happy Memorial Day weekend. You know, we don't care about the holiday. We just happy to get a day off tomorrow. So I really appreciate anybody that takes the time out from their cookout plate or, you know, spending time with the fam or just relaxing. And it's going to tune in to my live stream today. I thought about taking the day off, not only because of the holiday. I mean, the holiday wouldn't have stopped things for me anyway, but on top of that, it's just a tough day for me. You know, today's the 7th anniversary of my brother's passing back in 2017. And if you've listened to any of my albums, from Dream to Escape Hell to God Made a Monster to my new album, Dream Till It's Over, you see the words scrolling at the bottom, out now on the website and on Bandcamp, which, you know, if you go to the website, it takes you to Bandcamp. It's all connected. You know, if you've listened to any of my music, you know, post 2017, you know how that has affected me and continues to affect me. But I thought this would be a good day to get distracted by Apple Music deciding to put out 100 album list. Their 100 best albums of all time, all genres included, as long as it's an album. Apparently that was the only criteria. It had to be an official LP, so no mixtapes, no EPs, no playlists, no compilations, you know, an album. So I usually have, like, you know, before we get started, addendums to get to, but I don't really have that today, other than, you know, just cop the album. You know, I got physical CDs as well that you could purchase on Bandcamp, or you can get a digital download. Like I said, support me. I'm getting away from the streaming shit. Actually, I just saw a video. Mac Hami put out a phenomenal album called Rich Ass Haitian, and I remember hearing about this a little bit during the week because it dropped, I believe, last week or the week before. I can't remember. I've been listening to it since it dropped. Him and Rap City dropped on the same day. Both phenomenal albums. Definitely them and Schoolboy Q are my early running for albums of the year, besides mine, of course. So I was, you know, like I've been listening to those albums on repeat since they dropped. But I remember hearing some stuff. Mac Hami was talking about there was some funny stuff about, you know, his album disappearing off Spotify. And I don't use Spotify. You know, if you've been a follower of this show for a minute, you know I don't rock with Spotify. I listen to most of my music on Tidal if I'm streaming something. So I didn't notice it, but I did hear rumblings like, oh, you know, the album got pulled from Spotify. I thought that was like a purposeful thing that he might have did. But he put out a video today, actually, like a kind of a PSA, letting his fans know like what was going on, and it was like some funny stuff. And Spotify and, you know, the distributor, both are just kind of like, we don't know what happened. They thought he did it. The distributor and Spotify blaming each other. It was crazy, and it's just all I could think was like, damn, that's another L for Spotify. So not only, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, if you were a supporter of me, if you're a supporter of my music, cop the album, listen to it on Bandcamp. Even if you don't have the money right now to purchase a CD, do a digital download, just listen to the album and support me there, because it's not going on streaming. And like stories like that just kind of reaffirmed me on that decision. Because even an artist as established as a Mac Hami could run into some BS with Spotify. Like, what chance do I got as an independent artist? You know what I'm saying? But this is also like a PSA to other independent artists. It might be time to start really looking into life post Spotify or life post streaming, because I don't really think, as it stands right now, it's not going to be a viable infrastructure for independent artists. If you're not on a major label, if you're not, I mean, maybe a well established, like, millions of streams, even if you are an independent artist, you might be fine. But not only is they acting funny with the money, but they're acting funny about even hosting your stuff on the platform as it is. So it might be time to look into getting a website, like focusing on Bandcamp, focusing on other platforms that give you a little bit more control over what you do. And the website is probably going to be the best option. But just thinking about life post streaming, post Spotify might be something that you might want to consider. Even if they're able to work it out and figure this out, it's just the fact that if they decide they don't want you on your platform, you out. There's no argument. You can fight for your royalties. You can fight for all this other stuff. I don't really even feel like it's worth it at this point. If it's not this, the botted streams that they're trying to crack down on people that are not really botted, but they're trying to say that they botted to get you off. Either that or it could be something else. It could be some other policy or some other change that they decide to make, and they don't consult you on it. They don't consult you. They don't consult me. They don't consult the artists. They only listen to their shareholders and the major record labels. If you're not Sony, if you're not Warner, if you're not UMG, they don't really care about what you got going on, and they'll kick you off in a heartbeat. So that's my little rant. I saw that as I was preparing for today's episode, and I just thought, damn, another L for Spotify. So yeah, that's just my little rant about this independent artist shit. Like I said, Dream Till It's Over, out now. You see the text at the bottom. Support your boy. But let's get into today's episode, because the internet has been on fire. First of all, I'm happy that this happened, personally, because it gave me something to talk about other than Drake versus Kendrick. Like, the last couple months had just been swarmed with that. And don't get me wrong, I loved the battle. I loved it for hip hop. It energized the culture in a way that was desperately needed. But, I'm just ready to move on to new topics. I'm ready to move on to other talking points. And I was like, damn, Apple Music came in clutch with this list, because it's got the internet on fire. Everybody's got a debate who should have been number one. Does Lauryn Hill deserve it? Does what album should have been ranked higher? What albums got snubbed? All this kind of stuff. And I love these kind of conversations, because then I can remind you that it don't matter. That's the long story short. It don't matter. It's about engagement. It's about conversations. These lists happen almost every 2 years or so, maybe even more frequent than that. Like, in the midst of this, Spotify had also put out their own little list that I'm not going to talk about, because I don't rock with Spotify, and it was not as big of a talking point. They were talking about the biggest hip hop records in the streaming era. And when I tell you, matter of fact, I'm gonna pull that up. Just because, when I tell you how horrendous this list look, it was like, and they focused on hip hop, so I'm already like, what y'all got to say? Streaming. So specifically top hip hop songs of the streaming era. So you're not gonna get any of your classics. So any of your purists, y'all can calm it down. Like, it was nothing for us. Like, this is literally 2014, 2015 is where it kind of started. Let me see. Oh, they're gonna start from the bottom. All right, let me scroll. All right, so yeah, let me switch scenes real quick. Oh, all right, there we go. So yeah, they decided to make Kendrick Lamar's "All Right" the number one song. Now, of course, because we're just coming off of the big rap civil war, and we're just coming, like that was like the big talking point. So of course, people are gonna be like, "What?" The Drake defenders, the Aubrey's Angels, they're really gonna be upset. I'm not mad at this pick. Cause when you think about it, this is like 2015 ish. This is probably the best song when you really think about it. Cause then the next up is Kodak Bodak Yellow, which yeah, it's a big moment. It was definitely like like definitely like the biggest record of a woman rapper at that point. Like even here it says Bodak Yellow was the first song by a solo female rapper to reach number one on Billboard Hot 100 since Lauryn Hill's "Doo Wop That Thing" in 1998. That's how long it had been between 1998 and 2017. So yeah, it definitely deserves like high praise, and especially when you think, okay, 3 is God's Plan, 4 is Lil Uzi Vert's EXO Tour Life, Future March Madness, and this is the, you see what I mean? This isn't really like a list to really care about like that. Like, yeah, there's some dope joints on here, but it's not a lot of it's not a lot of quality anyway. So I think that's why a lot of people just didn't really care about that one. But they put out these lists every couple years, and it's just the drive engagement. It's really there to piss you off. Like it's not there to start like to have a definitive list. It's to drive traffic to Apple Music or whichever publication, Rolling Stones, Billboard, whoever decides to put these lists together. Drive traffic to them, get them trending, get them talked about. I'm doing a video on it, so it's obviously working as far as I'm concerned. And it's to make you mad, to get you furiously debating. Oh, this is ranked too high. This is ranked too low. This album should have been here. Why is this album even here? So yeah, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it's a fun talking point because I had a few opinions on it that I wanted to share. Definitely let me know in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this after the stream premiere. Let me know how you feel, right? Because one of the things I wanted to go ahead and dispel, like right off the bat, and it's funny because I ran this album back. I took a drive to Fayetteville to see my mom yesterday, and to bring my son so she could see him because it's been a little bit since she got to see my son. So we ran the album back. It was a good hour, 20 minutes, perfect for the drive, the length of time it takes to drive to Fayetteville from where I live at. And I was like, I just want to see, like, just so it could be fresh in my mind. And after listening to it again and really digesting it, I'm not mad at Lauryn Hill being number one. There's a lot of people that like were furious, especially comparing it to the number 2 record, Thriller. It's like, yo, that like Apple Music got it all the way wrong. Of all the arguments that I've seen that one the most prevalent. Like, of course, because it's the number 1, number 2 spot. I feel like even though people were like Thriller should have been number 1, if Thriller had been number 1, I feel like there would have been a lot of furious debate about whether it deserved it. Because that's just what these lists do. That's what these conversations are for. It's for, getting us to debate. So even if Thriller was number 1 and Lauryn was number 2, or Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder was number 2, or whatever album you think it should be after that, like Abbey Road by the Beatles, if that was number 1, it would be a lot of furious debate about it. So there was never going to be a unanimous pick for number one, especially the number one spot. Like when you really think about it, you know how crazy it is to do a list of 100 albums, and the only and like there's really no criteria. It's just all genres, all eras. Like I was trying to think, were they like excluding albums from like the 2020s? And then I saw the Taylor Swift album, even though it's the Taylor's version, so it's technically the, it's still the same album just redone. It's still an album that came out like fairly recently, like maybe I think maybe last year or a couple years ago. Like it still came out in this decade, and it was included. So there's really no rhyme or reason other than we're just making a ranking. So honestly, I was more offended if I was to be offended, because like I said, I don't really care because I know what these lists are about. I was more offended about albums that were not mentioned. More specifically, artists. Because you could say, "Oh, I was just happy Outkast got on there." Whether I felt Aquemini was the definitive album is either here or there. I was just happy that Outkast was included, and Aquemini is actually my favorite album from Outkast. So seeing that one up there, I was excited. Some people might say Stankonia, some people might say the Speaker Box the Love Below, maybe some people might even say ATLiens or Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music. I was just happy that Outkast was on there and got their flowers. But then there's other artists I think about, like, why isn't Scarface on here? Why isn't UGK on here? Even if you gave them the 100 spot, like, they should have been up there before Travis Scott, if, for example, right? I would have gave them the 98th spot instead of Astro World. Hell, Rodeo is better than Astro World, so I don't understand how that album didn't get the nod. I think I was watching a video with Anthony Fantano, and he was talking about the list, and he was saying how, that was just when like little white dudes named Chad started listening to Travis Scott, so that's why that album was considered and not Rodeo. So but regardless, right? I'm thinking, okay, I'm more offended by the people that were not included at all, whether or not this album should have made it or not. Then that. So I'm not pressed about that, but I know what these lists are. So I wasn't that invested, to be completely honest. But I just thought these comments were like hilarious. Matter of fact, speaking of which, Jermaine Dupri. Now, so hold on, I'm gonna pull it up real quick. This article. So Jermaine Dupri was very mad. He said he blasted Apple Music's top 100 over R&B disrespect. Now this 100% I agree with, because there was a strong, like, not only was there a lack of R&B on the list, but there was a lack, like they were all kind of ranked, the R&B that was included is what I mean, are ranked pretty low. Like there's no Mariah Carey, there's no Whitney Houston, there's no like TLC. See the picture right there. I don't think there's any Anita Baker. And yeah, I got the list pulled up over here on the side, but like, let's be honest, am I gonna really scroll through 100 albums? I don't know. Oh, you know what? Dang, Apple Music got it for me. Boom. All right, so let's see. So as far as R&B albums go, we got Confessions. That's the first one I see. You could kind of give or take with Nina Simone, but that's still like mad low for a Nina Simone album. We got Solange. We got Mary J. Blige, My Life. My favorite Mary J. Blige album. So I was happy that one got included. Let's see. Oh, we got Baduizm. Some people try to like, split up neo soul and R&B. I would say SZA, but SZA says she don't want to be just known as an R&B artist. She want to be known as a pop artist. So I'm like, all right, cool. I give you that. I give you that. So I won't include her. Counting this off. Sade's Love Deluxe should have been way higher. We got D'Angelo's Voodoo. Would you call Prince Nah, not especially not this album. Not Sound of the Times. Definitely would not be a R&B album. We got Janet's Control. Probably should have went with Rhythm Nation, but all right. I think that's it. Oh, and Beyonce's self-titled album, which is at 36. And I think that's it. Oh, Marvin Gaye was What's Going On, but that's would that even be counted as an R&B album? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, it's most of like traditional R&B, I guess you could say, like traditional R&B, is pretty low on the list of albums, and I definitely agree. But at the same time, I was asking myself when I was reading this article. Same time, I can't really think. I mean, other than the people that was mentioned, like Mariah Carey and TLC, and and Whitney Houston, and even then, like Whitney Houston, and like correct me if I'm wrong, I can't really think of an album. Like when I think about Whitney Houston, I think about her singles. I think about "I'll Always Love You." Um, damn, why am I blanking on like Whitney Houston tracks? Like I'm Every Woman. I think about her singles. Like I think about her big, singles and stuff. I don't really think about her albums. I don't really think so. And that's the thing about 90s 2000 R&B. When you really sit down and think about it with a select few like a Mariah Carey, there's a lot of like Emancipation of Mimi. Was that album called Honey or Butterfly? I'm trying to think. Hold on. Now I'm blanking. I'm blanking. And usually this is stuff I don't really be looking at. I don't be looking at because I be thinking, oh, okay, I know this. I know albums and shit. Yeah, Butterfly. I'm thinking like a Butterfly or Emancipation of Mimi. No, those albums. Oh, I'm thinking of the Honey EP. That's what it was. I'm thinking about like when I think about those albums, like okay, I could see those being being considered, but R&B albums, like albums, you don't really think about albums when you think about R&B, especially not like top 100 albums of all time. There was a long period of time where the R&B album was not really the focus. It was more about let's get some singles that pop off. And I feel like hip hop's in that place now. Has been in that place for a while, but I feel like there was still a lot of like great albums coming out even in that time. But there's really like a small few of like top to bottom great phenomenal albums. Like I feel like Confessions should have been a lot higher than it is, because that's like one of the few R&B albums that I could think of, like besides an Emancipation of Mimi, which I think is better than Confessions personally. Like, but what I'm saying is like there's a lot of like albums. I mean, a lot of R&B releases that I can't really think that fits. Like if I think about a TLC, the only one I could give it to would be Fan Mail. Probably like crazy. Most people probably say Crazy, Sexy, Cool. I'd probably say Fan Mail. Even because I'm a big like. Oh, you know what? There's no Brandy on this list too, and I would definitely give it to her Full Moon album. But even then, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. Like I thought about, I do agree with Jermaine Dupri when it comes to R&B being like really snubbed on this list, but I can't really think of too many R&B albums like a complete body of work, that was not that I would like pull out like a D'Angelo, an Erica Badu. And there's no Jill Scott. Like I would have loved for a Jill Scott. Like who is Jill Scott? That album definitely should have been on here. Um, Even if you ranked it lower, probably should. It No, it should have been here. Like yeah, because the complete body of work. Like no, this should be there. But yeah, it's not a lot of R&B that I could think of that needed to be considered on this list. That's what I'm saying. It's like when because there's a lot. You throw out these like statements like, oh, this album should have been here. This album, why isn't this here? Why isn't that here? Like you really gotta think about it. The only criteria I could think of that would have gone into it is like top to bottom. Is this album listenable? Like, is this album a complete body of work from top to bottom? It's not a lot of R&B albums I can think of. Even some hip hop records that were being thrown around. I can't really think of like maybe a Paid in Full by Eric B and Rakim. Probably should have been on here. And there's no Run DMC, which seems crazy to me. Especially what's the 1987 joint by Run DMC? I'm thinking about the one with My Adidas and Walk This Way. Um, what album was that? Oh, King of Rock. Yeah, like you talking about an album that should have been here. No, that wasn't it. Cause I don't see it. I don't see that one. Oh, Raising Hell is what I'm thinking about. It's tricky. Uh, Peter Piper. Why am I Walk This Way? Okay, yeah, that's on there. Where's My Adidas? Which one? What album was that? I'm bugging. You know what? Maybe I didn't talk myself out of it. I thought I might have had that one. But if you're not gonna do if you're not gonna do Run DMC, you gotta do LL Cool J. Either you gotta do Radio, you either gotta do Radio, or you gotta do Mama Say Knock You Out. Two pivotal albums in hip hop. Because that was the thing about the R&B. I mean, not the R&B, the hip hop albums that got me. Because of course, I can't really speak on a lot of other genres. Like I listen to a lot of music, I listen to a lot of different music, but I'm not as familiar with rock or electronic or country or folk. I'm not as familiar with that. So when people are talking about, oh, this album should have been here, this artist should have been here, I don't really know those albums. So I can't really say whether this one should have been here, ranked higher, ranked lower. Can't really speak on that because I'm not as familiar with those. But I can talk on the R&B and I can talk about the hip hop because those are the two primary genres that I listen to. And the hip hop one was very interesting. There's a few cause like I said, like rankings. You're trying to rank 100 albums. It's almost impossible to rank that in like a meaningful way, right? But there were a few like real egregious ones that had me like really going, huh? How did y'all come up with that? Like I said, I'm not mad at Lauren Hill's album being ranked number one, cause I'll tell you like this, uh, listening to the Miseducation of Lauren Hill and um, listening to Thriller, listening to the Miseducation of Lauren Hill, listening to Thriller back to back as a cohesive body of work, I got to give it to the Miseducation of Lauren Hill. Like this, because one of the things a lot of people don't think about is that Miseducation of Lauren Hill is a concept album. Like the skits tying in, like with the kids in the classroom, and all of the songs really tie into it. Like when I think about Good Kid, Mad City, which was ranked number 7, and how cohesive that album was, or To Pimp a Butterfly, which I if we talk about hip hop albums, I felt like that was one of the few like, all right, I feel like Good Kid, Mad City could have been swapped out for To Pimp a Butterfly. If we only doing one album, like if we only doing one album for each artist, with the exception of Stevie Wonder or Prince, we're only doing one album per person. Swap out Good Kid, Mad City for To Pimp a Butterfly, and you got me. You got me. And honestly, I ran that album back on the ride back home. And when I tell you that that album, that's one of the few, like I have a very short list of albums that I consider perfect. And that's one of the few albums that I feel are perfect. Like To Pimp a Butterfly. Good Kid, Mad City, especially towards the end, has its flaws. Like after Sing About Me, Dying of Thirst, that it gets a little shaky. But top to bottom, from track 1 to track, I think 16, I can't remember how many songs is on it. Perfect album. I don't see a flaw in that album. That definitely could have been swapped out for like Good Kid, Mad City could have definitely been swapped out for To Pimp a Butterfly. Hold on, let me see if I can get this right because I had it cut off a little bit. Hold on, I'm gonna check my stream real quick to make sure I can see myself. I can see the screen real quick. Yeah, okay. All right, so we got a good little diff. So I pulled up their Instagram page for Apple Music. So this is just the ones that I see that are a little off, right? That I would have swapped out on the hip hop side. Flower Boy, love that album. Probably, I don't know. Tyler's work just kind of got better and better over the years. But if I had to choose, I would have definitely, like, my favorite Tyler album at this point is definitely Call Me If You Get Lost. But I would swap out Igor for Flower Boy. I think Igor, like, we talking about a concept album, really well thought out, put together, like, just mind blowing album. Like, Flower Boy is great too. Very sonically, like, first of all, the jarring switch from Cherry Bomb to Flower Boy as a Tyler fan was like, it caught me off guard, but it was definitely like a welcome surprise. So it was like the best possible surprise, and it definitely deserves it. Don't feel like it's better than Igor though. So if you, like, I feel like uh, it would definitely be like the album I would have picked for this one, Igor over Flower Boy. Astro World don't need to be here, and I like swap it out for Rodeo if you want Travis Scott included. Swap it out for Rodeo. I would probably swap him out for like maybe I'd probably swap it out for another artist like a UGK or a Scarface. A Scarface is definitely missed on this list. If there's one artist above anybody that I would have definitely put on this list, even more than a UGK or 8 Ball MJG, because I feel like Southern artists were definitely lacking on this list. But a Scarface, let me see, because there's a few albums like The Untouchable, The Diary. Matter of fact, that's the one, The Diary. The Diary, swap that out for Astro World. And look, I have no problem. I'm a big Travis Scott fan. I wasn't that big of a fan of Utopia, but that's a conversation for another day. But Scarface should have been on this list. So I would have swapped out. Travis Scott for Scarface, and it would have put the Diary on here over that. Let me see. Doggy Style got to be there, but it definitely should be a little higher. But again, like it's about all genres, so I don't know who to put down, who to bring up. I'm still not too sure about Get Rich or Die Trying. As big as that album is, as great as that album is to me, I don't know if that album should have even been on this list. Personally, like we're talking about 100 greatest albums of all time. That's where it gets a little tricky. It gets real tricky when we talk about the best albums of all time amongst all genres. Like I don't think SZA's SOS should have been this high. But yeah, I ain't gonna play around with the rankings too much. I don't know. Like, let me know how y'all feel. I don't know if the Marshall Mathers LP should have been over up here over the Eminem show. I think the Eminem show is the better M album, personally. Tupac, Me Against the World should have been over All Eyes on Me. I would swap that out. Like as a cohesive body of work, I know All Eyes on Me is the bigger record as far as like sales. Like it's the highest. I think it's still the highest selling hip hop album of all time. But yeah, like me, I think Me Against the World definitely should have been above. Should have been swapped out for All Eyes on Me in the closet. All right, so this is the biggest thing right here. Of course, Illmatic should be here without question, but it should definitely be above My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It probably should be above the Low End Theory, and it definitely should be above the Blueprint. Like this is kind of like the one common argument that I see all the time, and I had to agree. And look, Jay Z, The Blueprint is my favorite album. That is my favorite Jay Z album. I ranked that one above Reasonable Doubt, which is a lot of people's favorite. I like The Blueprint more than Reasonable Doubt. Still should not be anywhere close, let alone higher than Illmatic. We talking about the hip hop Bible. Like Illmatic was the out like the pivotal switch between like the beginning of hip hop, the '80s style, the Sugar Hill Gang. I mean, everybody had their own style. Everybody was doing their thing, and it definitely was progressing past like the beginning stages of hip hop. But Illmatic was definitely the hard switch from the '80s style of hip hop, the beginning, to basically the template for what we see today when we think about lyricism, we think about like lyrical, conceptual, introspective, meaningful, like hip hop. Like even down to the production. Like before, it was unheard of to have multiple different producers on a hip hop album. Now it's basically the standard. Now it's kind of flipped in the last couple of years because now it's like, oh, to be a rapper, the work like everybody is hungry for a Boldly James to work with exclusively with a Mad Lib, or a Freddie Gibbs to work with an Alchemist, or Nas. Ironically enough, a Nas working with just Hit Boy, or now like Common's about to drop a new album and he's gonna be working exclusively with DJ Premier. There's even like rumors of a Ninth Wonder album or a Larry June album entirely produced by Ninth Wonder. Now that feels, like that's something to be excited about. That's something different than the norm, which it was completely flipped before Illmatic dropped. Like when I tell you how impactful that album for anybody, and I was 2 years old when that album dropped. I don't understand the impact when it happened, but the impact of that album is still felt today in how rappers put albums together. To rank that one at 39 and the Blueprint at 13 just seems very criminal tone deaf, whatever you want to call it. It just felt like very like not of the culture to do that. Like I said, I didn't want to get too wrapped up in the rankings, but that was the one that made me go. Well, it was one other one, not a hip hop specific one, but another one that we're about to get into now. Cause yeah, this is gonna be a little controversial. You see my cursor? You see my cursor right here? I got a confession. I've never understood the appeal of Blonde, let alone it being number 5. Is crazy. Like, even if you would have put Channel Orange here, which I think is a phenomenal album, my favorite Frank Ocean album, you put Channel Orange here, I'd still be. I don't understand why it's so high, but like this is the one I've just never understood the appeal of this album. Like I'm about to look up the track list real quick, right? Matter of fact, let's look it up right here instead of me looking at my phone. Let's look it up. And you know, I just thought about it. I don't really know too many Frank Sinatra albums, but it was just interesting not to see Frank Sinatra on here at all. All right, let's see. Blonde track list, right? Yeah, let's go to Genius. All right. I like one, 3, 10. Oh yeah, 9. I think Siegfried. I'd have to go back and listen to it. It's been a while, but and I'm a Frank Ocean fan, so I go back and try to listen to it from time to time, just to see if maybe it's growing on me. Maybe I'll finally get it. Maybe it'll like it hit me the way it's hit other people. I don't get this album. I don't get why people love this album so much, and I do not get why it's number 5. Like, please, someone explain to me why this album is so revered. Like, I never understood this album. Like, I know it was the album that came out after his initial hiatus, after Channel Orange, that people were like just desperate for a Frank Ocean album. Like that was like the first artist I remember like seeing people just tracking. Like it had been 1,297 days since he dropped an album. Like that was the first time I had seen people really tracking that stuff and like desperate for another album to that extent. So when he dropped that and he dropped the kind of like the throwaway album that he had, I can't remember what that one was called. It was the one I just remember because he was like in this video, like building something or something like that. Oh, it's not even on streaming. I don't remember what it was. I remember the Black and White album. It was a thing where he played Universal or something like that. Dropped that one and then was able to drop Blonde independently. Genius move. Well, yeah, I remember when that all dropped, and I remember just being so let down by Blonde. I think I actually liked the other one more than I liked Blonde at the time. And yeah, like it's not bad. Like it's not bad. I don't know how to feel about it. It's just like I listen to it and I just don't feel anything. Like I listen to Channel Orange and I love it. Like thinking about you, Super Rich Kids, Pink Matter. Like I can like pyramids. Like those songs are great. And like every time I hear them, like I still get like that jolt of electricity and excitement. I just don't get Blonde. And like the fact that like a Blonde is on here and there's no Weekend album on here at all. Like House of Balloons, no, and I don't know if that's counted as like an EP or a mixtape, so maybe that's not gonna be on there. but like there's no what's the why am I blinking? I'm blinking so hard. I should know this because I'm talking about the last two albums he put out, Dawn FM, and like I said, there's no criteria. They didn't exclude albums from this decade, so and I love Dawn FM. That's another album that I would strongly like. I don't know if I'd call it perfect. After Hours, that's the other album I'm thinking of. Yeah, no After Hours, no, no Dawn FM. And you could have just called it the trilogy because it was released as an album. But yeah, no House of Balloons, no Echoes of Silence, no Thursday, no nothing, no Frank, no The Weekend at all. Seems crazy. I know some people that were upset about Drake even being on the list. I think he shouldn't. I don't mind Take Care being on the list. I just think it shouldn't have been as high as it was. Personally, I probably would have ranked it like where Travis Scott's album is, like at 95. It's not a great album. Like it's a good album. It I would have honestly switched it out for Nothing Was the Same. I don't know why people sleep on that album, or they don't like this. I feel like the Drake fans, it's either that or Take Care. Those are always the albums that people like hold as the highest of Drake's albums. The ones that people argue are classics. Um, yeah, those are the albums that people always rank top each other. Do I always say that like Nothing Was the Same was always my favorite Drake album. I would have swapped that out, but even then, I wouldn't have ranked it as high. I would have really struggled to put it on the list at all, but maybe about a 95, 96, something like that, 98. Definitely wouldn't have been like 47 above. I mean, like, my God. Yeah, it's ranked higher than Doggy Style. It's ranked higher than Doggy Style. It's ranked higher than Flower Boy. It's ranked higher than De La Soul 3 feet high and rising. That's crazy. All Eyes on Me is better than All Eyes on Me according to Apple Music. It's better than Sign of the Times by Prince. It's just barely it's just barely above or below Outcast and Criminal. See, yeah, no. Oh, it's better than Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys. Yeah, no, no. There's like I said, I was more happy that like the album or like artists that I loved were included, but there was some seems a little crazy. But yeah, like let me know what y'all think. I think I'm kind of gonna wrap it up. Like I said, like it's not really a thing to get too worked up about. Like I said, I had a couple gripes. This, like, if I'm talking about a particular artist, this album should have been swapped out for another album in their discography. Or, hey, why is there no Scarface? Why is there no? We think about hip hop. Why ain't there no UGK? There's no Mob Deep. There's barely any like West Coast influence. Like there's no Death Certificate by Ice Cube or America's Most Wanted. There's no Redman. Now we talking about like Wu Tang solo albums. There's no GZA. There's no Supreme Clientele. There's no Only Built for Cuban Links, which seems crazy. Like I said, like a Get Rich or Die Trying is cool, but when you think about those other albums that are not on here, there's no Redman, there's no EPMD, there's no Eric B and Rakim Paid in Full, there's no LL Cool J, like a lot of like pivotal, important, hip hop albums snubbed. But at the end of the day, it's just Apple Music. The next list be by Billboard, and we'll be having the same conversation. Then the list after that will be by Rolling Stone, and then maybe BET might throw out one right before the Hip Hop Awards. Uh, Vibe magazine will do one. The Source magazine will do one. It's all the same shit. So it's all about engagement. It's all about getting the people riled up and talking. It's all about just keeping their name in your mouth. And it's fun to talk about. It's fun to debate about. But don't take it too seriously, guys. Don't take it too seriously. But that's what I'm gonna leave y'all with. I'm gonna cut it short this week because, like I said, I don't have a lot to talk about. It's a tough day for me, but I want to make sure I get an episode out. We're gonna try to keep this consistent. I really do want to get another guest on the show, so definitely let me know if you are interested. Make sure you're following the Instagram page, the 1430 Podcast. You like the Facebook page as well. You subscribe to this channel. If you're watching this and not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. And yeah, matter of fact, just so I'm not just thinking of the shit that I want to talk about only, of course, if I want to talk about it, if you want me to talk about something, it's got to be something I actually care about. Don't ask me about no country albums, because I don't know shit about that. And I know a little bit about electronic music. Don't know it enough to sit here and talk about it on a podcast. But if you have dope suggestions for show, for topics for the show, and you want me to talk about it, leave them in the comment. Follow me on the Instagram page. Leave it under the comments of the posts that I post on there. And yeah, I'll definitely give you a shout out if you drop a topic that I think is really dope and I use it. I'll definitely give you credit for giving me the idea. I'm not above giving anybody some thought, and I'm here for y'all. I'm here to make this show as dope and as entertaining as I possibly can, and your feedback is definitely appreciated. But yeah, I'm gonna call it a night. It's your boy Vinny Dangerous. We just wrapping up another installment of 1430 Live. And until next time, much love. Oh, Dream Till It's Over out now. Make sure you get that. Cop that, stream that, listen to it on Bandcamp or www.vinnydangerous.com. Alright, that's it. I'm out. Peace.